So joining us now on the phone, we've got Andy Francis joining us. Andy, how you doing tonight?
Hey guys, good. How are y'all doing?
Good. Thank you for coming on the show. I want to just jump right into it because, we talked about it, Andy, before you came on. Pete and I were talking. This stuff happens all the time. This isn't a unique incident. This is every weekend. This is everywhere from, Virginia to California. It's club tournaments to national tournaments. As more people tournament fish and as water becomes more crowded, people run into each other on the water. Was this incident different than a lot of others you've had over the years where you've shared water with someone?
Yeah, certainly. I'm not used to, certainly not used to the social media and Facebook beatdown and so forth that came with it. If it's all right, I'll just tell you what happened.
Okay.
So Charlie was boat number 1. I was boat number 7. And my towing layer, I was actually talking to him before his last stop, and he said, "Look, man, I was boat number 5 last year, and boat number 1 went to this same spot." I said, "Well, we're gonna try it. It's a big area." I had fished there a couple weekends before in a local tournament of the FL, and there was 3 of us that shared that spot most of the day, and no incidents. There's a lot of fish there. You just got to figure out where they happen to be at today. It's a pretty big area. There's probably about the size of 3 football fields. There's some brush. There's about a 10-foot flat and some brush up and down through there. Of course, there's this water pipe, wastewater treatment plant discharge. That water runs cooler than the river usually, so that's why the bass like to hang there. And then out in the middle of the river, there's a channel break that breaks from 10 down to about 20, and a bunch of big boulders out in the middle. And, there's fish used all up and down through there, and there's a lot of fish there. So I know Chris, tournament director, dug into this thing, and, he said, angler reached out to him and told him, "Look, in this same tournament last year, there were 4 boats there, shared that whole area for 2 days, no shoes." So that's kind of what I had in my mind as I'm riding up there. It's like, of course, I'm following this boat 1 right in front of me. I'm thinking, man, we're going to the same spot. So he pulled up and stopped, and idled up out about a cast length out in front of that pipe. And the videos on Facebook that he posted are in the wrong order. The second one that he posted actually happened first. So, I shut down back from him a little ways, and kind of got up on the trolling motor. Like I said, he started casting to that pipe from a pretty good ways out, kind of out in the river. So there's some brush down that left-hand bank. The tide was going out, so it would be downstream from where he was at. So I pull over there, thinking I'm gonna hit these brush piles, and I'm talking to him as I'm on the trolling motor, and he made some comment, and my co-angler said, "Uh-oh, here we go." And I said, "Hey man, this is a big area. You're here first. You tell me what area you want, and I won't touch it.
Wow.
I'll fish around you. I'll do whatever." So he gets real belligerent and starts, dropping some F-bombs and eye on everything that I can see here, which Mike, you guys probably fished it. That's like a 2-mile stretch of the river there. And you got to leave, and I'm boat number 1, and he's going on and on and on, which kind of caught me off guard a little bit. Like I said, I haven't had too many of those type incidents, and haven't tournament fished much for 10 years. So, so anyway, so he starts. So I'm over there going to hit this brush along the bank, and here he comes. And he closed the distance, came right up to me, runs into my boat, and actually pushed us into the rocks and into that one tree that's there. And I was just kind of a little bit in disbelief at that point. And I said, "Come on, man." And really, he and I both, we shared a few exchanges there that I wouldn't repeat, just because he ran into my boat. And at that point, I was getting pretty pissed off. So, I basically told back up. So now he's there beside me, and I'm trying to either go forward or go back, and he's sitting right there beside me. So I said, "Look, man, just let me get out of the way." So I start forward, and at that point, I'm pretty pissed. I had lost it, and really, what I should have done at that point was just left. No fish or trophies worth getting into into an argument on the water and dealing with somebody that's just being belligerent. So
right.
I should have left right then and called it good. But again, I kind of had the mindset, this is a big area. There's a lot of fish here. Already fished a bunch of tournaments this year and no issues. So, So anyway, I try to pull forward. He's following me, and I wound up going out through where the pipe comes out, and he kind of stayed over on that side, and then shot the second video, which is the first one that got posted. So they're in the wrong order. And at that point I was pretty pissed and kind of in my head going to prove he didn't own the river. So again, I should have left. But
right,
I gotcha.
I start throwing up there, and he takes a shallow running crankbait, throws it across my line, snags my line, and reels it up. And then he laid that rod down with me hung up, put his foot on it, picked up another rod, and thought just throw him back up there at the discharge. So I reel my deal up, and it's all a mess. So I asked the guy, I said, "Hey man, are you gonna let me untangle this, or are you gonna try to set these hooks into my hand?" And he said, "Go ahead and get it." So I really wasn't sure at that point what he was going to do. But I pulled it up. I cut my line. I untangled everything from his crankbait, pitched his crankbait over the side, and let him reel it up. And then we left. Mike Iaconelli was pissed, and I just said, "Man, this ain't worth it. Let's get out of here." And I by that point kind of calmed down and said, "Let's just go."
Did this all go to the tournament director? How did Chris Bos handle that situation with you guys?
Yeah, so I left. I idled back down and ran down to my next spot, which it was about, I think, 11 or 12 miles up to where we went. I ran back down about 7 or 8 miles and stopped and kind of got up and started fishing. So I called Chris and I said, "Hey, I just want to let you know there's an incident up at this discharge. I want you to be aware of that." And he said, "Yeah, Charlie already called me and sent me some photos and videos, and looks like you were in the wrong." And I said, "Well, I don't know what he sent you, but yeah, he was there first, and I acknowledge he was there first. But community spot, big tournament, and of course, once I kind of got my head screwed on straight, I left." So, and of course, Chris dug into this thing, talked to the co-anglers, and he got back with me later, and he said, the co-anglers kind of confirmed what you said. You were trying to keep your distance, and he's the one that closed the distance, kind of there, real belligerent. And, it caught me off guard, too. I mean, this guy just comes all the way over to me and then pulls out a camera and says, "Hey, man, what are you doing this close to me?" And I was just, like, standing there going, "What?"
If there's a problem that needs to be fixed, if there's a hole in the game, if you don't address it, it doesn't get taken care of.
It's very true. Yeah.
So, you need to bring these things to.
Oh yeah.
You might not need to put somebody out there and shame them, and maybe that wasn't the initial intent. Maybe it was, but if there's issues out there that need to be addressed, this is how you do it.
Yeah, I mean, you got to talk. It's communication again. You got to bring it to light. You got to talk about it. So that's the only way to get things fixed. Andy, thanks for joining us tonight, man. Wish you the best.
Thanks, guys. Great show.
Okay, take it easy.
All right, see you.
Okay, joining us now, we've got Charlie on the phone. Charlie, thanks for joining us tonight.
Hey, y'all.
How you doing tonight? Thanks for joining us. I mentioned it. Andy was just on before you. I mentioned it to him when he first come on. I want to get your opinion on this. Are you surprised that this thing has blown up so big in less than a week? This thing has gone viral. People are coming out of the woodwork to voice their opinion. It's even got a name now. It's got a name. It's known as the James River Rumble. Is this amazing to you, or is this surprising?
Yeah, I mean, so my first comment is just on the whole thing is going to be wow.
Right.
I mean, wow.
Right.
What just went down? Wow. What went down on the water? I mean, but so as far as it blowing up, I mean, I didn't ever think it would, but it's a problem in our sport that clearly is happening way too often.
Yeah.
And I think people are getting pissed off about it. And, I'm sure it's been happening ever since, our sport was started. But now, I was tired of seeing it get swept under the rug, and so I posted it out there, and I think everybody said, man, that's happened to me, and every person that's had that happen to them shared it. And you see how many people that is. So
right.
Well, tell us. I mean, we heard his version from Burgo. Your boat number one. You get there. Tell us in your words what happened.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really have a version. You saw it on the video and the pictures. What actually happened? I mean, that picture and video of him in between my boat bank was literally 3-4 minutes into the tournament day. I'm sitting there, maybe 3/4 cast off the bank, fishing a 10-foot wide pipe. It's not a big spot. It's not a couple 100 yards long. It's a 10-foot wide pipe with like 3 boulders on it.
Yeah.
And they're not even boulders. They're like rocks. I look over and this boat keeps coming closer and closer, like, running, because what's it take? 10 seconds a boat, boat 7, so I'm a minute ahead of him.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm set down casting, and he's not even in sight yet.
Right.
Just kind of, first cast in the morning, you're getting set up, you're feeling it out, you're kind of, but, I'm casting right in that 10-foot pipe. And all of a sudden, a couple minutes later, he hadn't said a word, and he's just idling in, puts his trolling motor down, trolling motor's up into the rocks, and I start inching in. I don't want my boat up on the bank because I'm fishing it.
Right.
And I start going in there to kind of, protect it, I guess. But, I looked at my co-angler and said, is this guy really coming in here? I'm like, there's no way he's going to come in here. That would be the craziest thing ever.
Yeah.
And my co-angler's like, I don't know. And so, I'm cutting him off. And the first thing I said was, what's your plan here? Like, that's literally what I said. And he goes, I'm going fishing. And I said, you're not fishing right here. So, that's kind of how it started. And by this time, his boat is in the location of where that picture was taken that everybody's seen and shared. So
right.
You can imagine the puzzled look on my face while I'm on the water fishing.
Yeah. Well, here's what's interesting to me, and when Andy on, he was describing his version, I didn't totally understand it. I know that spot, and there's an upstream and a downstream side to that pipe, right? So I'm in my mind, what I'm visualizing is you're on the downstream side of the pipe.
Right. It's a money tide when we get there in the morning, right? Because it was a
right.
The tide flow in the Richmond area for our tournament time was about as good as it's going to get for the day.
Right.
It was tough fishing up there, but that's when it was to make it happen. And so, obviously I'm downriver facing into the current, casting into this pipe.
Right. Yeah, so my observation was, I'm just trying to put myself in your guys' shoes, right? If I'm the second boat, if I'm Andy and you're on the downstream side of that pipe, I would, and I really, 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 really wanted to fish this spot that is a community hole, right? I would go on the upstream side of that pipe and power pole down, but that didn't happen, right? He's trying to get in on the downstream side, right next to you, is what you're saying.
Right. So he's trying to get on the stream side in between me and the bank.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Which is mind-boggling.
Yeah.
That's so I mean, basically if I had to describe what I just heard is 99.9% lies.
Right.
That's the only way to say it. There's no so the only two things that he said that actually happened was that our boats did meet.
Right.
Our boats met. Because
Yeah.
if you're going to put your boat in a close enough position where they can meet, they're going to meet.
Right.
And the second thing is I snagged his lure. And that was, so the first picture was him in between me and the rocks. And so he's coming forward, and I'm going in to block him, and, you know, they bumped into each other. You know,
Objection!
I was moving.
Objection!
Wait, what?
Objection.
What do you mean?
Andy said...
It's Charlie.
And I know that, Becky, I know. Andy stated that you did indeed ram his boat and purposefully hook his line and threatened to hook him with treble hooks. Does that happen?
So the first picture was him in between me and the bank. His bow of his boat is actually in front of me, which means that he actually went in between me and the bank and went in front of me. And so once we got that sorted out,
sorted out by means of ramming him?
Yeah. So he went around my boat on the outside and got in front of me upriver, and then started casting backwards, literally across my bow. So I made about a 10-foot long cast with a crankbait, snagged his line, reeled it in, out of the water, Becky.
See, I have to ask these questions.
Set my rod on the deck and stood on it. And it was 8, and, you know, I know there's, you know, gray area on drag setting on your crankbait, but I opt to, you know, leave it a little bit loose. And so he was able to pull the drag out to get his lure back to his boat.
Very considerate.
And, yeah, I know, right? And at that point, that's when he looked at me like, am I going to be a jerk? And when he tries to grab it, jerk it. And, you know, I gave him the nod, like, I'm not going to do anything.
Yeah.
So, Andy, is it your testimony that you did not ram him?
Andy.
That's Charlie.
Charlie.
Stormtrooper.
Sorry, long night. Long night. Long. So did you ram him, Charlie?
No, there was no ramming.
It was a tidal current.
And I might have wanted to, but
Right.
you know, I don't have a Viking boat, so
Yeah.
you know.